This is William Michael, the headmaster of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and I'd like to share an announcement regarding a new set of courses that I'm in the process of adding to the Classical Liberal Arts Academy course listing. Each year as we go through the school year, I'm always evaluating what's going on, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and whether there are any gaps in what we're offering the kids. And one area where I've noticed a gap has to do with elementary literature. Many homeschool families will have state requirements that even at the elementary level want to see children studying literature. And if you look at the academy, we've got things like Aesop's fables and obviously daily scripture reading. I mean, there's no better literature than the Bible, but we know that evaluators will want to see that the children are being introduced to a good selection of traditional literature. And we haven't had a course or any courses that provide for that. And I'd like to change that this year. So I spent a few days researching and digging around to try and learn about what resources were published over the past 200 years. And the reason why I go back to the mid to late 1800s and early 1900s is because if you go back to Victorian England was a period that really saw literature and publishing peak. I would argue that the books and the resources that were published, as far as literature is concerned, what was being published in the mid to late 1800s was the finest literature ever collected and published. They just had very good taste. They had an abundance of resources, and they put together wonderful collections of poems and stories and all kinds of literature. So I go back to that period when I'm looking for quality study materials for English literature. Once you get past 1930 or so, the quality really starts to fall off. It's from, let's say, the 1830s through 1930. That's really, I think, the golden age for English literature publishing. So I did that work. I went through and I spent some time researching all of the different works that were published and prepared for children for literature. And I found a series that was published. The woman's name who was the editor was Treadwell, I believe. And she put together a series of literature readers, a set of actually 9 readers. And they're not reading books, they're not intended to replace a formal reading program like McGuffey's Readers, which I recommend for reading instruction and practice, but they were intended to be a literature series for students to either read themselves or for parents to use to read with children, so that there would be a good collection of traditional English literature collected from all different sources. So it includes things like old Norse folk tales and German folk tales and Aesop's fables and all kinds of stuff. Really great stories, legends, fables, poems, and so on. And not only are they collected together in this series, but they're arranged in 9 different levels, from kindergarten, which is a primer, all the way up through a level 8. So what I've done is I've worked to obtain copies, quality copies of each of these books, and I laid out courses that I'll be adding for what's going to be called elementary literature. And parents will be able to enroll their children in these courses from kindergarten up through 8th grade. And each of these courses will provide the kids with first-class selections, excuse me, of all kinds of excellent traditional literature that will satisfy this desire for literature studies during the elementary years. So all of that will be taken care of. I'm adding those courses today and opening them up. What there will be is you'll see the actual readings that are provided by this series, but then I'll be creating assessments to go along with them. For younger children, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, I'll be creating assessments for parents to use. And of course, the assessments are optional. You can always just read the stories with the children and manually mark the readings complete. Keep track of what you've read with the child. But I'll be posting assessments, and I recommend the parents use the assessments not with any concern for grades or anything like that, but to simply take a snapshot of how your children are doing with literature when they first go through a story, and then go back a few weeks or a few months later and walk through that assessment again, because what it will give you, which is very valuable, it will give you some data that proves that your child is progressing. And so you always want to do before and after assessments. And you can take assessments in our program as many times as you want, but in the child's records, you'll be able to see that the child is progressing by repeating these assessments. It's also good for us because with our accreditation requirements and things like that, we'll be asked to show evidence that children are in fact progressing in their studies. So I'd recommend you use these assessments not just for grades, but as tools to measure your children's progress, to show that your children are in fact progressing over time. That first time they tried an assessment, they didn't do very well and got a low score, but you went back to that assessment a couple months later, and they were much better than they were at the beginning of the year, and they got a high score. That's the kind of thing that you'd like assessment to show. So I'll be posting assessments intended for that purpose. And like I said, for younger children, there'll be parent or tutor-directed assessments where the parent is asked to answer the questions in evaluating the child. And then as the kids get older, they'll begin being asked to complete the assessments themselves for grading. So again, the name of these courses will be Elementary Literature. You're going to see them popping up on the study center. And I think that it's going to be a really helpful set of courses for the kids. I think the kids are going to like them. The selection of readings in the courses is really great. I can guarantee you it's all moral and wholesome. There's no junk, no modern goofiness in it. And I think the kids will really enjoy it. So feel free, if you're a subscriber in the Academy, if you've got a student plan or a family plan, you can add the elementary literature courses just like any other courses by using your subscriber enrollment key. And it's just another set of benefits for your enrollment subscription in the Academy. More studies, more resources for the same cost. So I hope that you find that helpful, and I look forward to seeing the kids get into these stories just like they have with Aesop's Fables. And I'm looking forward to the kids sharing some drawings of the stories and things like that, sharing them on the student forums. That kind of stuff is fun. But anyway, those courses, elementary literature, grades K through 8, are now available on the Academy Study Center. So I hope you enjoy them. God bless.